Think other Democrats are watching their words?
I think it's certainly possible, but I'm not sure. I mean, I cannot think of or point to any individuals who have said that. I do think that there are Democratic members of Congress who are preparing for that possibility.
How do they prepare?
I think they look to the possibility of litigation. I think they're saying, do we have the best teams possible in order to carry out our work?
Some Republican, or many perhaps, will be watching this, listening to this, and thinking, wait a minute, actually, you're the ones who are prosecuting us. You are the guys who are weaponizing the Justice Department. How would you respond to somebody who may be thinking that?
In what way?
The rising force of the Democratic Party, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, suddenly looked shaken when an NPR host boldly cracked open her polished storyline. And that's exactly why this exchange hit so differently. Because if there's one newsroom you'd never expect to challenge AOC head-on, it's NPR. Yet here we are. The questions cut deep. The tension was unmistakable. And it leaves you asking, is this newfound backbone from NPR just random timing? Or is Trump's federal funding / subtly shifting the mood inside the network's halls? Let's break it all down.
I'm interested if you or your fellow Democrats are at all feeling intimidated or silenced or anything.
I'm not. I think it's important to call this administration's bluff. I think that this is what authoritarians do. I think this is what kleptocracies do. I believe that this is what corrupt administrations do. They rely on the illusion of power, on the suggestion of coercion in order to try to get people to comply in advance. And I think that one of our largest responsibilities is to not comply in advance. If they want to do these things, they can go ahead and do them and let the American people see what they intend to do.
Now, if you're hearing this interview for the first time, you might walk away convinced America is teetering on the edge of authoritarian rule, because that's the left's go-to move. Turn every minor hassle into an existential emergency. But here's where things really start to heat up. The host fired off a simple but razor-sharp question. Does the left actually feel silenced? And before AOC could even get a word out, there was a pause. A long, unmistakably awkward pause. She realized this wasn't something she could dodge. She couldn't twist it, couldn't dramatize it, and definitely couldn't fake her way through it without sounding absurd. And just when you think the pressure hits its high point, the moment actually gets even juicier.
Some Republican, or many perhaps, will be watching this, listening to this, and thinking, wait a minute, actually, you're the ones who are prosecuting us. You are the guys who are weaponizing the Justice Department. How would you respond to somebody who may be thinking that?
In what way? In what way? Is the very presence
Putting
of
Trump on trial would be their example, I suppose.
Yes. I mean, here's the deal. In the United States, there is a jury where we are judged by our peers, and he was found guilty in court on 34 felony charges. If people want to say it was weaponized, I mean, it is hard-pressed to say that there's a partisan argument for that.
And there it is. Another hard-hitting question slicing straight through today's DNC talking points. Democrats argue Trump is weaponizing the justice system, while critics point out they spent years doing the very same thing to him. But here's the twist. Listen closely to AOC in this interview, and critics hear her practically admitting the left applied legal and institutional pressure throughout Trump's presidency. She tries to package it as accountability, but the suggestion is sitting right there between the lines. So if Trump is now pushing back with the same tactics, why the outrage? You can't play the game, rewrite the rules, then complain when the other side runs your own plays. What's fair for one is fair for the other. Then the interviewer pivoted to immigration. And AOC's reaction is something else.
To what extent is immigration as an issue part of your problem with working class voters?
I mean, I guess my question would be, what does the word problem mean?
People voting for the other side and not for you.
Yeah.
Feeling that Democrats are not serious about the issue in ways that concern them.
I think that we have a problem on immigration because of the lack of progress that we've had on this issue. And as we know, Republicans weaponized that lack of progress. Of course, there was famously a bipartisan bill last year that the Republican majority in the Senate and also in the House were willing to pass. President Biden was willing to work with them on it. And Donald Trump said, do not solve this problem.
Now, this part gets genuinely intriguing. For all the soaring promises and polished moral posturing, critics say Democrats failed to fix the core immigration challenges during their time in power. And when Kamala Harris was famously tasked with overseeing the border, the situation didn't just stall, it unraveled fast. We ended up facing one of the most severe border crises in recent memory. Wave after wave hit, with no real long-term strategy in sight. And instead of tackling the worries of ordinary Americans, the DNC funneled its attention into symbolism and sweeping rhetoric about immigrants. While the communities bearing the brunt of the chaos were left to fend for themselves, political reality eventually came knocking.
It is a problem not just for Democrats, it's a problem for the entire country that Republicans do not want to solve any sort of issue with immigration. They are completely uninterested in addressing undocumented people, in addressing a path to citizenship.
Well, they do want to address undocumented people by removing them. I mean, that's what the president is attempting now.
And I've got to admit, that pushback from the NPR host landed harder than anyone expected. Because like him or not, supporters say Trump has shown more determination and follow-through on the immigration crisis than any recent leader. He's cracking down on undocumented immigrants who slip through the system, cutting off the pathways cartels and smugglers depend on, and fortifying the border in ways past administrations only ever promised on paper. You can disagree with his style all day, but it's tough to ignore how relentlessly he chases results.
Why do you think this issue did seem to be a political loser for Democrats among key groups and key constituencies, if what you say is true?
I think that a lack of a path to citizenship in the United States, the lack of addressing comprehensive immigration reform, creates a large population of undocumented people in the United States. We have a large population of undocumented people in the United States. Overwhelmingly, it is not because they crossed the southern border of the United States. It's because they came here in a documented fashion and overstayed a visa and became undocumented. And it is the lack of ability for us to expand paths to citizenship, modernize paths to citizenship over decades that create this bubbling issue.
I've honestly never seen AOC this shaken in an interview, at least not in the way we're watching unfold here. For a moment, you can practically hear the mental scramble as she tries to keep her talking points from collapsing. And then she drops the line that really makes you tilt your head. She insists there's no clear path to citizenship, and that this is why America's dealing with an immigration crisis. No clear path? Come on. How did someone like Arnold Schwarzenegger, who showed up with a dream, an accent, and a gym bag, end up a U.S. citizen? How did Ilhan Omar, a literal refugee, navigate this supposedly non-existent process and climb all the way to Congress? The reality is straightforward. The path exists. It's always been there. Millions have walked it. But when the left gets pressed with difficult questions, the kind that expose the cracks in their narrative, they retreat into denial. They blur the lines, hoping no one catches the contradictions.
Republicans are allowed to weaponize.
And you have voters in places like Arizona, which is a swing state that Democrats lost, or Colorado, which is generally a blue state, saying there's a lot of chaos, there's a lot of lawlessness.
Yes.
I don't know what to do here. Who's looking out after me?
And I think when that is paired with divestment from the social safety net, when that is paired with lack of progress on minimum wage, when that is paired with rising costs of living, it sets the stage for a strong man to point to any marginalized group and say it's their fault.
AOC is scrambling to separate herself from the chaos she and her party left in Biden's wake. It's almost comical watching her now act like she had zero responsibility for the border turmoil. Let's be real. Critics contend Democrats weakened enforcement policies, fueling a surge in illegal crossings. And now, just as Trump moves in to restore order, they suddenly cry outrage. They slam him for trying to fix a mess they spent years pretending wasn't there.
Holman was upset, I suppose, because he felt that you were giving advice to people who were here illegally. Were you?
I was giving advice to all of my constituents.
He said he was going to report you, or even that he did reach out to the Department of Justice. Have you heard from the Department of Justice?
I have not, and I intend on reaching out to the Department of Justice to inquire.
Really? What would your question be for the Department of Justice?
Well, there is a member of the Trump administration who is threatening and seeks to open an inquiry. And are you going to do it?
What would you learn? What do you hope to learn from that exchange?
I think it's important to know where this administration stands and if they intend on using political intimidation to silence their critics.
You can almost see AOC's expression shift the second the interviewer pressed her on why she offers advice to those in the country illegally. It's one of those rare unscripted moments where her polished talking points clash with reality. In one breath, she insists the Democratic Party is serious about addressing illegal immigration, framing it as both a policy and humanitarian priority. Yet in the very next, her words strike some critics as guidance for those living here unlawfully, and that's where the contradiction hits.
Do you think there is a real risk of lawmakers being investigated, charged, arrested?
Potentially. I mean, we see that this administration is certainly wielding that threat, and we will have to see if they intend on carrying out their threats. If they are to be believed for what they are publicly suggesting, then the answer would be yes. But we will only find out if we call their bluff.
Do you think other Democrats are watching their words?
I think it's certainly possible, but I'm not sure. I mean, I cannot think of or point to any individuals who have said that. I do think that there are Democratic members of Congress who are preparing for that possibility.
Nobody is being silenced here, and it's time that fact is stated plainly. Free speech doesn't mean freedom from consequences. If someone spreads reckless, defamatory, or blatantly false claims, they must face the repercussions. Over the past few years, we've witnessed a flood of exaggerated stories, misinformation, and politically driven accusations tossed around with zero accountability. Entire narratives were built on unstable foundations, and countless false alarms were raised just to score points. So when Trump announces plans to pursue legal action against those he believes misled the public or tried to damage his presidency with lies, why is that suddenly a crisis? It aligns perfectly with the principles Democrats claim to champion: justice, accountability, and the rule of law. They set the precedent, normalizing the use of legal tools to hold people responsible. What's happening now is simply the natural follow-through. Actions have consequences, and if those consequences finally move the other way, it's not censorship, it's consistency. By the end of the interview, AOC's talking points were stripped bare, exposing contradictions the left can no longer hide. NPR's surprising toughness only highlighted the gap further. If critics believe Democrats contributed to this mess and now fear accountability, that's on them. The age of one-sided narratives is over. And that brings us to today's video wrap-up. If you enjoyed it, hit the like button and subscribe for more videos like this.